This is Keyshawn Harper again with To Be Determined podcast, where we are determined to give you the tools you need to succeed. I wanted to start off today with a thought. I wanted you to really think about something for yourself, right? I wanted you to consider how consistent is your behavior from day to day. Like, would you consider yourself a consistent person? When I ask that, I mean your behavior towards people, your treatment towards people. How often does that change? Right. So in episode 3, we talked about the art of manliness, like sensitivity, and we talked about for a second masks and how no matter who you are, you change your behavior in order to appease the situation you're in. Like, you don't act the same towards your mom than you would towards your boss. You might be more assertive at the workplace than you are at home. There's always some type of change and shift and mass changing because essentially we need that to survive. And that's okay. And we get that. But why do we do this? Like, why do we shift these masks around? And I think it comes down to our infatuation with categories, right? Humans, we've actually made a living off of categorizing things. Like, once we were, back in the hunter-gatherer stage, like, this plant is dangerous and this one isn't. This plant will kill me if I eat it. This one will satisfy me and give me nutrients. So, or this animal I can't beat because it's too dangerous. And then these are the animals that are more docile and I can sneak up on and kill. These things helped us become who we are today. And I'm not questioning anything having to do with that. But it kind of bleeds over now because we don't necessarily need to figure out what plant life is good to eat and what's not, because it's, they're not going to sell dangerous poisonous plants at the grocery store. We ain't got to worry about that anymore. That's done. Skip. Next thing. But we use it in terms of people and placing our trust in people or placing ideas that we have on people. We use those same categorization skills that our ancestors learned back in the day. And we use that and we call it somewhat stereotypes today, right? Like, based on a certain pattern that you're fitting, I'm going to assume what you are, how you're going to behave, and how I should behave towards you because of that. And it's kind of has a connotation now, but overall, in a day-to-day basis, you use a lot of them to actually help you. A lot of them actually work, right? You see a cop who wears a cop uniform and you realize he's a cop, so maybe I should act a certain way. Or you see, somebody running, sweating away from something, and there's multiple people running. You're like, oh, maybe I should run that way too. Like, these things, we've built up a bad reputation on them, but essentially they help us survive. We adapt for survival, of course, but we don't necessarily stop at how we look at people, right? Our behavior doesn't stop at observing. We actually become things because of those same behaviors, right? Because of, hey, if I look at this guy, I assume he's going to be this way. Maybe I shouldn't act that way in order not to get that same assumption by someone else. So we begin to develop a persona, right? We begin to develop a mask, like we were talking about earlier, right? We're trying to essentially manipulate the way people see you, manipulate how they recognize you and where they categorize you. Because first impressions, as we said, are also important, right? And first impressions are nothing but I'm going to look at you and categorize you. So I guess in order for me to make the most of that bad, horrible encounter that is first impressions, I'm going to fit a schema, fit an idea or a mold that would make you think positively of me from the get-go. Right? So we begin doing this and we begin being more so obsessive with it. There's something that we kind of lose along the way, right? Because we're using people's past to create an avatar in their heads. We're trying to make we're trying to just develop a reality for them that may not exist. So we use this We use different things in order to do that. And one of the things psychologists use is schema. Now it doesn't mean just human behaviors. It goes to everything. Like schemas are just ideas or patterns or a categorization of information or relationship based off of your personal experiences, right? Like if you got sick, right, as a child eating pizza, maybe you never eat pizza again because you're afraid of that sickness. It's an idea that's just stuck in your head no matter what. And we don't want bad ones, so we want to try to promote the good ones, right? We don't want to look weak and unreliable, so we try to make things, make ourselves seem more dependable. We really let you know I'm not saying this in order to cast judgment on schemas in society and we're all wrong for doing this and we're all sheep. No, I'm not saying that. I do it. I do it today and I did it a lot as a cop. I needed to do it. I needed to go into a situation. I need to go into a call. I need to go into, either a traffic accident or just any type of hostile situation. I need to go in there and use those schemas, use those stereotypes in order to get people to respect me in the get-go, right? I needed it to command the authority I needed in order to make the situation go smoothly as possible, right? You talk loud, talk like you're assured of yourself. Stand with your shoulders up and broad shouldered. I did all those little things in order to manipulate the person's perception of me so that the encounter goes more smoothly. And more so in my direction. But the one thing I want to talk about, the thing that we need to be careful of, is that while building these masks, while building these images of ourselves for people, we get caught up in worrying about what people think of us. Now, I get it. If you're on a job hunt, you're doing an interview, yes, it's very important what they think of you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you should stop and just say, screw it, be yourself at all times and let the chips fall where they may. But what I'm saying is sometimes we can get too obsessive with where those chips fall, every single one of them. Right? Instead of being like, okay, I want people to get me in this sort of general area, we try to pinpoint and try to really, really drive the fact that we're this way, right? And it looks like you micromanage your mask to the point where you're not even really you. You're kind of developing this artificial being that you hope, commands respect and authority that really doesn't reflect you all the way. And it's okay because at the end of the day, you might not want to admit it, but at the end of the day, you're worried about, am I okay? Right? Am I sufficient as a human being? How do I rank amongst my peers? Right? And we do that by one, puffing our chest out, and two, looking around. We just look around at everyone and hope that they are looking at us in a way that we want them to look at us. Like think of it, if you don't believe me, think of the last time you were in the gym. Or if you're a gym stud, think of the first time you were in the gym. What were you like? What was your behavior like? You were most likely, if you were a dude, you were at the at the bench press, the most alpha of all exercises. You were there and you put on a good amount of weight, respectable amount of weight in order to, one, not kill yourself, but two, you didn't want people to think you're weak, right? So you got the most amount of weight you can do and you're knocking out reps. You're going. And after you do those reps, what do? And be honest. You look around. You look to see who's looking at you. You're looking to see if anyone's giving you any judgmental glares or anything like that. You're looking and to see what the reaction of everyone is. And that's what we do with our personalities. Like on Facebook, we're waiting for likes, right? Or on Instagram, we're like waiting for likes or tweets, retweets, all this stuff. We're essentially doing something and looking. And we do this so much to the point where we spend most of our time looking and not really working out. But then there's one liberating thing that I've realized, and since I've realized that, one, it's helped my workouts, but two, it's helped me in general. You got to come to the realization that no one's really looking at you, right? Like no one really gives a crap because everyone else is doing the thing you're doing. Like everyone else is the one on the bench making some reps and looking around. They're too busy worrying about what you think of them that they're not thinking anything of you. And that's the thing that kind of gets us. Like that's the thing that opens Pandora's or opens the box, opens the window of possibilities is to realize that no one gives a crap about what you're doing. Sound, super depressing and nihilistic at a way, but it's not. It's not saying that no one cares. It's just saying that no one cares as much as you think they'll care, harshly as you think they will, because they're not really paying that much attention, right? And there lies another problem, right? Because we're too busy wrapped up in our own, perception that we may overlook what's really going on. Sometimes we take those schemas, we take those perceptions that people have and just put a face value on it. Like the tough guys, maybe they don't need help. This guy doesn't need me, he's good. Or this girl knows what she's doing. We get so good at making these fake personas, and then we're so good at just accepting these fake personas that people are running around needing help and needing others, but because they don't want to admit it or because they want to look weak, they're showboating this fake thing while they're really dying on the inside. Experiences, or I guess the most interesting ones, happen when you have your persona that you're making, the mask that you made, you have that on tight, and you have it on, you're ready to go with it. And then you have another person wearing a mask that you think is going to be a certain way. And so you're ready to engage you and him. And then you realize at the end that both of these masks aren't working. What I mean by that is this. Look, so this happened a few years ago when I was, still working for police. We went to a call, basically a house dispute, something normal. It happens all the time. It's whatever. We do it over and over again. But because of this, I already have my mask on. I already have that tough guy gonna take care of it, be assertive, and get it done type thing. Because usually it's a situation where you have to be like that because there's two people at odds and it's never good. So we get there, me and a friend of mine. He's this dude, super chill all the time, older officer, knew what he was doing. So I'm like, cool, I got someone. We got this, right? Get there, and I realized that this is a place I haven't really been to, but I knew somebody who has, and that the guy there was interesting to say the least. He had a mask on, a mask that said, "Don't mess with me." A mask that had a whole bunch of tattoos on it, a long record, and just a tough guy persona. Going into this, I knew I couldn't, be a softie going, and I had to have my tough guy mask on too in order to match Will's, you know. So going into it, I went around the house because I just kind of like knowing what's going on. Get to the back of the house, and I hear faint crying, and then it gets louder, like sobbing. And I'm waiting to listen to see if there's like a hit or like a crash or someone yelling, but it was nothing, just the crying. So then I go back and I told my partner like, hey, look, this was going on, so I'm crying. So what ended up happening is it was my beat, so I was like primary. So we switched sides. He went to the back just in case someone ran out, and I went to the front. Banged on the door because I'm thinking the worst has happened. Either she's got beat up already and the guy left, or the dude's beating her up now, or all the possibilities that could have happened were going through my head. Knock on the door, bang on the door, and a woman comes out. Super calm, super chill. Just looking at me like, hey, like it's just another day. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? You guys call? And she's like, yeah. Come in. And I'm like, oh, is everything all right? She's like, yeah. I called because my husband is kind of freaking out because I wanted a divorce. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then I call, my partner on the radio. I'm like, hey, look, we're good. Just come in the front with me. So we're going, and she's just explaining like, it's been some time, and she doesn't really feel the same way that she did before with them, and she just wanted it to be over. And I'm like, okay. And we're walking past, and we're walking through the house, and the sobbing gets louder and louder until we get to the back, and the bedroom door is closed. And he's like, she's in here. And I'm like, is he like mad? Is he like stomping things, or is he messing things up? Has he hit you? And she's like, no, just go talk to him. He's pretty upset. So I open the door, and I see this dude, big guy, over 6 feet, tattoos everywhere. I knew he had a record already. I looked to see if he had a warrant because a friend of mine knew him already and arrested him before. And I look at him, and he's on the floor with a child's book in his hand, or on his lap, bawling his eyes out. And at that moment, I realized maybe these masks don't help all the time. Because I had the mask on, and like, I'm about to just go, get this thing handled and make sure everything's fine. And if he wants to fight, we fight, whatever. But I realized, yes, he had that persona, but it wasn't applied here. This wasn't the time. And I'm not joking when I say I prided myself on not freezing at all. Like, I've never was in a situation where I was like, oh crap, I didn't know what to do, and I kind of froze up. And that's usually a bad thing, especially if it's like gonna get physical or it's gonna get, dangerous. But that day I froze. See, I wasn't really prepared to be emotionally vulnerable or have someone emotionally vulnerable like that in that situation. That was the first time I had a situation where it wasn't a huge heated argument. It wasn't me chasing some bad guy who just robbed somebody. It was me trying to console a man who may have lost everything, lost his wife and his kids. And at that moment, I realized, like, masks, although they help, although they make us feel better, although they make us feel tough, and sometimes they can make things a bit easier because we know what to expect, we don't always expect the right thing. And sometimes life is just life. And someone is just somebody. And that day I realized, so I talked to him, and it didn't matter that I was a cop. Didn't matter that he was in a gang. Didn't matter what his past was. Didn't matter what my past was. At that moment, we were two people who took off our masks and tried to see each other for who we really are. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about, before you assume that someone's a certain way because they've told you or shown you they're a certain way, I want you to really look for times or look for moments where people take breaks to take off the mask so they can really breathe. And I want you to take breaks to take off the mask so you can really breathe. Because we can do this all day, but at the end of the day, we know some of these things are fake and some of these things aren't real. And we need to spend time with real things, with real people and real situations. Everyone feels pain. Everyone needs help. And the sooner we figure that out, the sooner life would be a smidget better. I'm Keyshawn Harper, and this is the To Be Determined podcast. Until next time, see you guys.